Southern Arizona is known for its desert climate with very hot summers and mild winters. This climate has meant the region has been a hub for agricultural growth for thousands of years, despite the fact rainfall has always been relatively low. It's Arizona's rivers and aquifers that hold groundwater, which have supported the state's now $23 billion agriculture industry. In total, farmland makes up about 35% of the state of Arizona. It's estimated that these farms use nearly 3/4 of the available water supply to irrigate their crops. The Colorado River system, which supplies 36% of Arizona's total water use, has experienced extensive drought conditions for the past 19 years. This year, an intensifying drought and declining reservoir levels across the western United States has prompted the first ever water supply cuts to Arizona's farmers. Extensive droughts and dwindling water supplies have wreaked havoc on the once prosperous farms that could endure the arid conditions. However, Arizona has been turning this around. In this video, we will show you how a low-cost innovative water retention system is being used in the desert, turning the dry landscape into a fertile carbon sink, stretching over 100,000 acres, turning the desert back into a farmland oasis. So stick with us as we dive into today's video. The western United States is now experiencing a mega drought that's generated the 2 driest decades in the region. According to this research paper, scientists analyzed droughts in the southwestern United States dating back to the year 800 and found that conditions during this century are more severe than the mega droughts in the late 1500s. The first Spaniards who visited the Sonoran Desert region in the late 1600s noticed that people were growing cotton. This meant the ancestral people managed to persist, growing the thirsty crop despite the droughts in the prior centuries. They were able to do this by digging hundreds of miles of irrigation canals to bring water from the rivers to the fields, which is no different from the modern cotton farms of Arizona today. However, the ancestral Sonoran people grew cotton very differently compared to today's methods. Cotton fields were interspersed between milpa fields of corn, squash and beans, which were conditioning the soil. This is because the milpa is a holistic system whereby each plant complements the other and the environment around it. The beans give nitrogen to the soil, the corn provides a stick for the beans to grow upon, and the leaves from the squash provide ground cover protection, keeping the soil moist for longer. This diversification of crop fields allowed for the ancestral Sonoran people to thrive in the desert. This is in stark contrast to the monocultures of cotton farms and vast cattle ranches that are seen in the region today. Arizona is still one of the largest cotton producing areas in the United States and is fast becoming unprofitable for farmers due to the recent 33% hikes in water rates. The ongoing costs of seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and maintenance for large machinery also comes at a price. These industrial farming practices continue to have detrimental effects on the environment, biodiversity, and the watershed. Mining for copper and silver in the 20th century has also taken its toll on the landscape. At that time, people cut down trees to get wood, to shore up tunnels, and for the process of smelting. When the tree cover went, that's when the grasses came in, and the introduction of domesticated animals and poorly managed cattle ranching has also further exacerbated the widespread land degradation. It is this continued poor management of the land that one woman decided she had to change. Vater Austin, originally from New York City, who initially knew nothing about rural life, transformed an almost barren landscape into a lush oasis. Over 30 years, Vater and her husband Josiah Austin has spent time and resources restoring the watershed in the Sonoran Desert region. They have restored over 5,000 acres of grassland, and their work has protected approximately 130,000 acres in Mexico, as well as restoring hundreds of thousands of acres of land in Arizona. They did this by creating well over 40,000 rock retention structures on hillsides and along washes. Dr. Norman's research shows that rock dams have increased water retention by 28%, which goes against conventional beliefs that bare rock transports more water downstream. The rock dams also reduce the flow of flash floods by 50%, and they extend the time of summer-based flow of streams by 3 to 4 weeks. The rock dams also helps store 200 tons of soil per year, helping vegetation in the surrounding area to grow, which in turn also helps to store and hold water for longer. This has helped to reduce and control erosion significantly and increase biodiversity, creating a carbon sink of 250 metric tons per hectare, which is comparable to coastal wetlands. The Austins' restoration efforts began in 1981 with a 40-mile stretch. They expanded their operation, creating a foundation called Cuenca Los Ojos, which translates to Watershed of the Springs. The foundation encompassed various educators, scientists, ranchers, and government agencies in both Arizona and across the border, which has helped to restore habitats and protect endangered species, such as the preservation of many rare native fish. Cattle ranching still takes place on Vater and Josiah Austin's land, but is done in a much more sustainable way. Vater said in an interview that some of our ranchers have cattle, some don't. I do believe there are some places it is better not to have cattle. Sometimes it's just too dry. In some cases, grasses respond well to grazing every other year. Every grass has its different personality, so you manage your ranch according to the personality of the grasses. The Austins started building rock dams intuitively, but over time they learned that it was actually an ancient practice. They discovered rock dams had been used as a dampener to plant corn behind them at Casa Grandes, an important archaeological site for the ancestral Sonoran people. And up until a few decades ago, the rock dams were still being built regularly and used on Mexican ranches, but they were no longer being installed because the young people had moved to the cities to find work. Vater Clark Austin responded by working with the local government to help pay young people to build rock dams in Mexico. Building rock dams takes a lot of manual labor. However, Vater said, "I'm an old lady with no training, and if I can make a difference, anybody can do it. Anybody with a good will can go out and do something."